Hello, my name is Kayla Blackman, and for my doctoral capstone experience, I conducted a 4-hour interactive workshop for elementary school educators titled Interoception: An Integral Sense for Self-Regulation. I was very interested in the sensory systems and sensory processing and how that relates to self-regulation. And in learning more about that, I learned about the concept of interoception as our eighth sensory system, which is our body's ability to recognize and understand internal body signals and to formulate ideas on what to do with that information. So that could be things like recognizing that we're hungry and understanding that we should have a snack in order to prevent becoming dysregulated from our hunger. And the more I learned about it, the more I started to wonder if teachers were familiar with this concept. As a school-based occupational therapist, we know that teachers are vital members of our students' educational teams, and it's important that they have a good understanding of some of the strategies and things that our students may be having difficulty with, such as sensory processing and interoceptive awareness. And so in terms of prevalence, we know that between 5 and 17% of the general population and over 70% of the neurodivergent population may be experiencing difficulty with sensory processing. And so that looks like a wide range of students that may be experiencing this, that our teachers may be coming into contact with these difficulties and differences on a regular basis. And so I decided to dig a little bit deeper and get an understanding on whether teachers would be interested in learning more about interoception and if they would be interested in attending an interoception workshop. And I found that after sending a pre-workshop survey to the teachers and staff at 3 local elementary schools, I received 60 responses, and over 95% of those respondents stated that they were interested in learning more about interoception and that they would be interested in attending a workshop. And over 80% of the respondents expressed that they were unfamiliar with interoception. And so looking at the literature and the theoretical foundations for this topic, I began by looking into Ayer's sensory integration theory to get a better understanding and be able to paint those definitions for sensory processing and the interventions and supports and strategies for sensory-based interventions. And I also looked at a newer model, the interoception and sensory processing model, that really ties interoception back into some of those older sensory processing models that we're still using to develop our sensory-based strategies. And in order to tie all of that together, I use the person, environment, occupation model, and that really tied in that holistic approach of how we can be looking at the students and their diverse and unique abilities and needs, as well as the environment, which includes the physical classroom setting as well as the social context, and then finally what these performance skills and the environment looks like and how that relates to the occupation of education and play and social participation that is very meaningful to our students' child development. And so that being said, I hit the ground running and conducted this interactive workshop on interoception. And this included a Canva presentation where I presented a lot of this background information and research and theoretical foundations on why this information is important and why it may be important for teachers and how they can be using the information to develop interventions and supports and strategies to support the needs of our students. And in doing that, I looked into strategies and materials that were readily available and ready to use, because teachers are very busy and they already have a lot to teach within the standard curriculum. So it was helpful to look into tools that were already developed, and instead of trying to create new materials, really focus on how we can adapt what's already out there so that they can use it in the classroom. And so what I found was the Interoception curriculum, which is developed by an occupational therapist, Kelly Mahler, and she developed this curriculum with lesson plans for going through parts of the body and going through how we can respond to the signals that we are experiencing within our bodies, and building those strategies so that once we can recognize what's going on, once we can put an action to that, we can then kind of figure out how we can continuously kind of use this information to stay regulated. And so what we did in the workshop is we went through lesson 1 of the interoception curriculum, which focuses on the hands as a part of the body. And I acted as the facilitator and the educators as the students, and we went through it as if I was a teacher putting forth this lesson in the classroom. And so the teachers were able to get hands-on experience on what this can look like in the classroom, what some of these activities can look like, and then we spent a lot of time really talking about adapting the curriculum further, because it's very flexible, it's very adaptable in the amount of time that you spend, how often you can repeat modules, vocabulary that you use. It's really made to be tailored to specific student needs. And so we spent a lot of time talking about upgrading or downgrading activities as needed, as well as meeting specific needs of students. So maybe our non-speaking students and utilizing AAC devices, or looking across age ranges of how can we use these same activities and same concepts for our older students as well as maybe our preschool students. And so we talked a lot about on what some of those adaptations and modifications to the curriculum can look like while still maintaining the core content of the curriculum. And in doing that, we learned that first, teachers were very interested in learning more about interoception and utilizing these strategies, especially when offered materials like the curriculum, as well as the support of occupational therapy. They were very interested in learning more and could see themselves likely or very likely to use these strategies within the classroom. And additionally, all participants shared that they thought that the material was valuable and that they would love for it to be shared with other colleagues, such as the other members of their department or other disciplines. And this really validated the importance of interdisciplinary communication and collaboration, and what that holistic approach can look like and how it can benefit our students. And so that all put together into the workshop really showed that this information can not only benefit our students, but it's something that we can continue to share and figure out how we can not only add this into direct one-on-one related service interventions, but how it can also be used in Tier 1 and Tier 2 supports as school-wide initiatives, county-wide initiatives that we're using across the board to develop that consistent language and systems of support so that students are able to use it across a variety of settings and age levels. And it was very exciting to get such a significant interest from teachers and to know that there are materials out there that they would like to learn more about. And we were able to actually get it purchased in our school district. And so now teachers will have access to this, and I look forward to sharing the information and material further with them to best meet the needs of our students. Thank you.